Hello and welcome to another episode of Sandy Killer Projects. In this episode, we're going to take off the front and the rear bumper and repair them. As you can see, the paint is really faded on this, and it doesn't really have a really aggressive look to it, being as it is. This bumper's been backed into a bunch of times and has a nice little cut here. So this is the front bumper. I can't really get a good angle on it. I would show you the entire front of it to start with, but we're in the middle of a rainstorm again. So for now, I'm just going to show you this. This is also the engine parts. We're getting ready to do another video on what's going on with the engine, but I'm going to pull this bumper off too as soon as it stops raining. All right, so to start removing the rear bumper, which is the one I'm going to do now, we're going to pull these plastic plugs off of the bottom. Okay, so the easiest way to get this style of plastic plug to come down is you get your plastic plug removal tool underneath it a little bit until it comes down. It looks like this, and then you just wiggle them and they come right out. So this one is in process. You just pull it till it comes loose and then it opens up. Some of these will end up being mashed up or broken. I have some replacement plugs on the way, so I'm going to go along the bottom and I'm going to pop all these out. Okay, once you have the four of these off of the back, there are ones on the fender flares. They don't come completely off. They only come partly down because they're compression style fitting. Those we'll have to deal with later, but right now they're out. So the bumper and the fender flare are separated. All right, so the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to separate the fender flare from the bumper. So this guy I already pulled off. This is the next clip up ahead, and I've also done. So above that, there's another one up here, and all you do to release it is you put pressure on either side of the clip and then press on the other side. Now this requires me to have two hands, so I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to squeeze on this. With my other hand, I'm going to push away on the fender flare to get it to pop through until it looks like the one that's already released. Okay, so once your fender flare is released from the rear bumper, you're going to start working on these. These guys are little plugs that pop down too. There's another one up underneath in the corner right here that can't be seen. All you do is you sneak that fork underneath it and pull it and it'll pop out. Alright, so as you can see, I have that plug out there. This is what that plug looks like. There's another part of it that goes up inside and it actually holds that metal bar in place. If those are completely broken, they'll actually fall down on you. So just be careful, because this bar is part of the structure that attaches it to the rear quarter of the car. Alright, so the point I'm at, I have all the plugs from the bottom and from the flares. So as you can see, the flares are separated. This part of the bumper is actually loose now because that's what that bar was underneath, holding it to the rear quarter. And then the next thing I'm going to do is remove the four pot plugs on the top and these two Allens on either side. Okay, so this screw right here ended up being T15 Torx. I was thinking that it was an 1/8 mil or a 3 mil Allen. It is not. Went and put my glasses on. Who knew? So all the other pot plugs, the four that go across, are these guys here. The next thing that you're going to do, which I've already done it, is you're going to come over to the side of the bumper right here. And you're going to put your hands to where that support rail is, and you're going to push. And when you push, that plate will fall out onto the floor. Because you've broken it loose from the support on the body. Alright, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to wrestle the back edge of the bumper away from the fender flare. It takes a little work. There are clips on the fender flare that go into these openings right here. If you're not careful, you'll snap them off. Okay, once you have the bumper skin loose, it won't come completely away because there are four sensors that are your backup sensors. You can remove each one of these off if you want to and disconnect the wiring as it sits on the inside of the bumper. There are two clips on either side that capture this thing in place. This one just happens to be broken loose, which makes it easier for us to look at. So the easier way to do this though is you come over to the driver's side and there's one clip holding the wiring assembly in place and then this clip here. So to release this clip, you release the safety off of it and lift up on this, and then the assembly comes down. Alright, so clip is off. How to do it. Flathead screwdriver on this. A lot of times these pop off and break. This one came all the way out. To get the plug to release, you have to get over this little clip here. So small flathead screwdriver down through there, lift up on the plastic mechanism, which is the other end of this black piece. When you pull it up, it lets it free from this, wiggle the plug down. This piece is mounted here. It can be taken off, so if you put too much pressure on it, it does that. Okay, before I go too far with dragging this outside, I mixed up some clear weld plastic epoxy to fix the rear backup sensor. Okay, so the last bit of prep work that I'm going to do to the rear bumper is take this guy off. The reason why is because I don't plan on painting this. These pop off really easy. You just take these little things and squeeze down on them through the square holes that are in the plate. And as you do that, each section will come loose, and that'll separate it from the step plate on the bumper. All right, so I've gotten a little bit of a break in the rain, so I'm going to show you the front bumper before we start removing it. This bumper has fade damage and some damage from being hit a couple of times. The fender flare on the passenger side is also scraped. This is going to have to stay this way because I don't want to do the fender flares on all of them. I think it'll look a little bit too much. But the process for the front is going to go very similar to the rear. All right, so the rain has stopped. I've got the rear bumper out and sitting on some easels. As you can tell, it's really windy today, which doesn't help either. So not much is going to get done on this right now, but there is one more plastic piece that was in here that I had to remove. All right, so one of the first things we're going to do is take off this metal brush guard. It takes a 14 millimeter. There are 2 bolts, one here and one over there. That's pretty much all that holds it in place. Okay, so normally there's a little lip in here that bites into this, and this goes up into the side. This is actually already coming apart before I've even started doing anything. Normally how you would do it is lift this bit up and then push this away to separate the fender flare from the side of the bumper. For the rest of the fender flare, it's those 3 clips on the other side of the spider webs there. Those 3 clips right there are just like the ones in the rear. They just need to be squeezed together, and then it releases the fender flare from the front bumper. Okay, so the bottom and the sides are disconnected from the fender flares. To get to the top mounts on the bumper, the grill insert has to come out. Easiest, fastest way to do that is you pop all these plugs, remove the grill and this plastic plate. Okay, so once these are removed, you just lift a little and the whole insert assembly comes out and lets you get to the pop plugs for the front of the bumper. Okay, so these work just like all the other ones do. You pop the center out and then remove the piece that holds the plug into place. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna get it outside of the fender flare, and then this piece will separate off. Don't go too far because fog lights are still connected. We're gonna drop it down and disconnect those. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to get the plugs off of the fog light assemblies. One is to lift these 2 tabs, and that leaves the light bulb inside of the fog light, keeping it protected. The other way too is to unscrew the fog light and remove it out and leave the bulb hanging. Okay, so now that we have the bumper off and down, we're going to take the fog light assemblies out. They come off with these 2 screws. They are T20 Torx. Just unscrew them off and the whole fog light assembly comes out. Okay, so I did not mention there are also 3 little plastic retainer clips that come out when you're pushing the fog light forward. Okay, so I've still got to do a couple of things before I call this bumper completely done and removed. As you can see, the lower splash guard, there are these little twist clips that hold it into place. You untwist them and pull them back, and it removes this splash guard piece from the bumper itself. They're really kind of janky. That's why they have a tendency to fall out anyway. Okay, so the only real trick to getting the metal guard off of the front of the bumper is everything comes up through this direction, and then as you can see here, there are 4 of these that clip through. So what you're going to do is you're going to press these, and then the entire metal guard will pull down and back. All right, so there are both of the bumpers unmounted and sitting on some easels. I'm going to start cleaning them up. You can see why we want to paint these flat back. Everything on them has like wear and dinge, and they're bumpers, so they're made to get beat up and look kind of ugly. Doesn't really do good with paints. All right, so the first step that I did with these to prep them for paint is just scrub them with some hot soapy water and a brush. As you can see, they look a little better, still kind of dirty, dingy looking, especially like in places that aren't touched. But the second step that I do, which the rear bumper is on that step already, is I take some parts cleaner and I scrub the bumpers all down again. That gets all the road grime grease and all the extra little stuff that's on things off. Like if you'd seen it before, it was heavy buildup in there. Not even that's an area that's seen on the car, but it gets built up in certain spots. This is underneath the step, but this bumper is significantly cleaner, and a lot of the extra oils and stuff have been taken off of it, especially all the waxes and polishes and stuff that have been put on it. That parts cleaner will scrub all that stuff off. Okay, so now we've done that same treatment on the front bumper. So you can see all the grit and grime that was in here underneath the license plate frame. That's all gone. Okay, so this is one of the worst sections on any of the bumpers. There's a piece that's peeled out right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut the high section out of it. Then I'm going to use some plastic metal made by Bondo. It's kind of like any of the other stuff on the market right now, but the advantage of this one is it's sandable. Okay, so now what we have is all the high spots have been cut down, and I've sanded it just to make sure that I can see that there's nothing extra sticking out, and I can feel that it's all down. So now I'm going to apply the plastic metal. Okay, so this doesn't look like anything fancy, but that fills all the gaps, and then I'll sand it back down, and if there's any other gaps left, I'll treat it again. Okay, so for the main surfaces, all I'm doing is going over this with some 1000, and I'm wet sanding. With a bucket of water behind me that I'm dipping into. All the purpose of this is to scratch the surface a little bit to accept the paint and to allow most of the clear coating to come off of the paint. Okay, so I've gone over the front with some 1000. I'll hose it all off when I get ready to paint, but I've got another coating of 2000 I've got to do. Also in the process of doing this, I found a little pit here that needs to be filled. I found a scratch section here and here that needs to be filled as well. Let me show you the first fill for that hole on the rear bumper. That now looks like this. There's a little bit more fill that needs to happen in here to help reshape, and then there's another little fill spot in here. Because of the fact that it got scratched, it's actually deformed the bumper altogether. All right, so all the sanding and body filling has been done to the bumpers. Remember, we did 1000, 2000 over the top of it, and then we filled some bad spots there and a real bad one up along here. So the next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to hit this all with a wet rag and then dry it off. Then after that, we'll use this paint, Rust-Oleum bumper and trim paint. This actually has a little bit of a texture to it, and it's pretty forgiving. All right, so there's the first coat of paint across the black front bumper, and here is the rear one all cleaned up and ready for paint. As you can see, some of the scratches did not come out completely, and that's not necessarily what I wanted to see. All right, so there is a bit of change of plans on these two bumpers. The paint that I used is a Rust-Oleum flat finish bumper and trim paint, which is this stuff right here. I remember from having done stuff on the Jeep over there that this had a little bit of a texture to it. The texture on this really isn't what I was looking for. I was looking for something a little bit more rough, like an off-road bumper. This is a little bit more flat. It does have a little bit of a texture to it, but not the texture that I'm looking for. So at this point, the steps are kind of going to go backwards. I'm going to 1000, 2000 sand over the top of these. These already have 3 coats of paint on them. And then I'm going to take some specialty texture bumper paint, and I'm going to go over the top of that. With a few of these sections, like here, you can still catch some of the scrapes in the paint. I don't really like that, so I'm going to glaze over them with some more Bondo. So it's kind of full step backwards to get the look and fit that I want on this car. Okay, so this is more of what I was looking for on this bumper. If you look closely, it actually has a rippled texture to it. That's more of an off-road style, which is what I was looking for. I'm still in the process on this one, but this one's just sanded down. You can see the difference in the glossier flat paint versus the bumpy texture, which is what I was looking for. Okay, so I'm not going to go back through all the details and show how to reinstall these. It's basically just a reverse process, but this is what the bumper looks like now with the plastic all cleaned up and fully installed onto the back. The front I'm just going to have to mock up. All right, so this is the front bumper mocked up. Obviously I'm not going to install it because we've got the engine all torn apart in it, but it will get installed once we're done doing all the rest of the work to the engine. So as of now, I'm going to leave the video here. As always, thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll keep making more content.